Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 99th episode of Dragon Quest Slime Time, a Dragon's Den podcast. This is your host, Pendy.
And this is Bururian. So, who is ready to talk about some Seeds of Salvation and Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake?
You know, I wonder if this game will have some luminaries of the legendary line.
I don't know, but I hope I can get a hand of a heavenly bride by the time this game is over.
Well, as long as I don't have to journey as a cursed king, I think I'm good.
Playing this game again really opened up some realms of revelation.
I'm going to be disappointed if there aren't some chapters of The Chosen.
I've nicknamed my party the Sentinels of the Starry Skies.
Wait, are we talking about the new remake? It's already become fragments of the forgotten past for me.
Well, that better not be the case, or you're going to see some World Tree woe in the blight below. But with that in mind, let's welcome our guests to our first impressions on the Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake.
Our guests for the show today are Mattcraft.
Hello!
Drippy.
Hello!
Woodus.
Hello.
AustNerevar.
Howdy, howdy.
And Twinkie.
Yo.
Okay, so let's move on to our first impressions for Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. Let's start out first with everyone's purchase experiences, what we bought it for, and why. We'll start out with Bururian.
I had probably the worst purchase experience you can ever do. I pre-ordered it on Amazon to start, but the previous month I had ordered the Romancing Saga 2 remake, and they had gotten it to me a week after release. So I said, I'm not dealing with that again. I need it day one. I have to have it day one. So I contacted a local used game store who also sells new games sometimes, and they go, "Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna have it." And I go, "Okay, cool. I'll cancel my pre-order and buy it from you." And the owner was just like, "All right, cool. I'll definitely have it. I may not have it day one, but I might have it." And I go, "Okay, well, that's fine." Rolls around and he goes, "Well, my order got pushed out by a few days." And I go, "Well, crap." So I started driving around to all the stores in the area. I visited a dozen stores. Nobody had it in stock. Absolutely nobody. And then 8 p.m. that night on Thursday, on the release day, the owner messaged me on Facebook and goes, "Hey, I've got it in stock. I'll have it for you in the morning." And I go, "Okay, cool." So he opens at just after lunchtime. So I didn't get it until after lunch. And so I went over there and bought it. And I bought it for the PlayStation 5. And I bought it for the PlayStation 5 mainly because I knew the Switch version wasn't going to be up to snuff compared to the Xbox, PC, and PS5 version, and I wanted it to look as pretty as possible. So I went for graphical fidelity on this one.
Man, that was quite the adventure to get your copy.
It surely
Twinkie,
was.
Twinkie, what about you?
I ended up purchasing on Steam. I really wanted to play the game shortly after I got up in the morning, and I didn't feel like driving half an hour to pick up a copy, and I didn't want to wait all day waiting for one to show up in the mail. So I said, if I'm going to buy digital, I might as well get it on PC because everything's digital. I'll probably get a Switch version later, and just got it there. So
Nice. What about you, Mattcraft?
Well, mine was actually kind of funny. I had it pre-ordered at my local Wally Mart, went to go pick it up, and come to find out that they canceled my pre-order for it at 2 o'clock in the morning and sent me back my money. Only problem is that I bought the game itself with a gift card. And at Walmart, you can't buy a gift card with a gift card because if they didn't have a copy, no place else had a copy around here. So I was going to get it digitally. I go through an epic saga of at least 5 or 6 different stores online. And then I'm finally able to do a pay by 4 with what cash I had in my bank account through Klarna, and I got it at GameStop. Of all places. I just pre-ordered it online there. The only snag, I get it, I'm putting in the code, I suddenly get an email that says, "Hey, buddy, your card didn't work." So I hurriedly finished putting in the code and blocked GameStop's email from my throwaway email address that I used to buy it with.
Oh, nice.
They got their money, though.
Yeah, I heard other people have been having problems with the pre-order for Amazon where not everyone has gotten their codes for that. So that's been disturbing to hear as well.
For codes? You're kidding me, right?
No. Yeah, they just, there's some people, including somebody that was talking in the Dragon's Den Discord server, that said that they didn't get their pre-order code whatsoever, and they have already contacted Amazon, and Amazon said to contact Nintendo, and I don't know what happened after that.
We're left in suspense.
Nintendo took care of it.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Dang.
Drippy, what about you?
Yeah, so I ended up getting it digitally on PS5, and I had a failure of morning, not as much as Bururians, That's crazy how many stores you went to. So yeah, I was actually just checking my order. So November 4th, I woke up to a text from Walmart saying, hey, your order is delayed. And the reason I went with them was because they messed up another order and they said, here's $10 off an order. So I said, all right, I'll give you guys another chance. Well, I've learned my lesson. I'm not going with Walmart anymore. I would usually go to Best Buy. I do like in-store pickup because I had Thursday and Friday off anyways. I was like, I'm taking a long weekend for this game. I know that I'm going to want it. So yeah, I dropped my daughter off at daycare Thursday morning and I went to a Walmart that my friend works at. And I'm like, I know you guys are not going to have this. I said, can you look in the stock, the other 2 ones near you? They said, yep, one has 2 and one has 7. Well, long story short, I go to both of those. Neither of them have it out yet. And on the second Walmart, there was also a Target and a Best Buy there, like nearby. Went there, nothing. And I was probably about 40 minutes away total from the second Walmart. So I put in an order for in-store pickup at a Best Buy about 40 minutes away from me then. And then I was kind of hoping by the time that, I got to there and maybe there was another one, it was like after 9 o'clock, they didn't have my order ready. And I'm like, I've already put 2 hours into this whole process. So I just canceled that order, pre-ordered it digitally. And then, there was like 10 minutes left for it to download by the time I got home. So yeah, first it was quite a process. I'll hopefully get a cheap copy or something like that. Maybe if, 1 and 2 as a bundle, I can get a physical copy. But yeah, that was mine.
Man, everyone's having adventures with this game. How about you, Woodus?
I ended up buying 3 copies of it. I got both of my kids a Switch copy, and then I bought a PS5 copy for myself because I'm going to record it for the Den's YouTube channel. So I wanted the resolution to be and graphics to look good. I took Friday off to play it, so I worked Thursday. They showed up right before my one son had to go to work, so he was kind of mad that he couldn't play it before he went to work, but no real issues. And I got them from Amazon. I didn't have any problems getting the codes, so I got lucky.
Oh, that's good to hear. Now, Aust, I see your note here, and yes, you do have to admit about how many copies you purchased.
Really? Okay. Well, I pre-ordered the Switch and Xbox versions from Square Enix, and I didn't have any of the problems y'all guys did. They actually sent mine, came 2 days early, so I got started on the Xbox version before the game was out. But I always planned to have my main playthrough on PC, so I've been playing it on Steam Deck ever since the 14th. And that's how that's going. Like I said, didn't really have any issues getting the game.
I got to give it to the Square Enix online store, as much as I actually hate ordering from it because their shipping policies are some of the worst I've ever seen. They make sure you get your stuff on the day that it comes out.
So yeah, when 11, the original came out, not S. When 11 came out, I had the collector's edition pre-ordered through Square Enix, but I don't own a PS4, so I was playing it on Steam the day it came out. And the collector's edition came, I think it came a couple of days late.
Yeah,
or at least a day late.
Oh, I got mine a week early from them for the original Dragon Quest 11. So I was playing it. It came out early September of 2018, and I had it almost a week before everybody else. So
yeah, they seem to ship their games in batches, because I did see a lot of people that said that they got their copies of 3 early, like Aust did, like 2 days or a day before, even earlier than that. I got the collector's edition. Mine came like the day of release. And then I did see one person that I know that got the regular edition, I think, for the Switch maybe. And I think they got theirs like a day late from the Square Enix store. But for the most part, yes, people seem to have gotten it early or at least on time from the Square Enix store.
So I guess that begs the question. Aust ordered it from the Square Enix store. Did Pendy, you got yours from the Square Enix store, right?
Yes, yeah, and I got mine on day of release.
You two got the collector's edition compared to the rest of us who kind of waffled around to a dozen different stores trying to find the stupid game.
I did not get the CE.
You did not.
I actually did order it, and then I canceled it because it was too much money. But no, I just got the regular edition.
Pendy, it's your turn to tell us the story.
I did buy mine for the Switch, but to be honest, only because I don't have anything else that runs it. I am thinking about getting a Steam Deck in the future, but for now I need to save my money. So I didn't really have any issues. Like I said before, I got the collector's edition, which I'll talk about later, and it did come from the Square Enix store like on the day of release. Now, I did hear for our people in the UK that ordered the collector's edition from the Square Enix store that they got theirs like really late. Like they got to like day of release and they were still getting a shipping notification that it was still packing or something that. So I feel sorry for them, unfortunately. But at least in North America, it seems to have gone a little bit better when it comes to buying from the Square Enix store.
All right, so moving on from that, what does everybody think of what the game looks like compared to past entries? And for this question, we're kind of going to focus just purely graphically here. We're not going to talk about about quality of life improvements or mechanic changes or anything like that. Let's just talk. You looked at it. Did it look good to you? Pendy, why don't you start us off?
As far as I'm concerned, the graphics look so amazing for this version of 3. It's startling to see the difference between this and the original. There are so many little details in it that are done so well. The birds flying away as you walk around, the rats scurrying around through the dungeon, the lighting effects with the lamp in darker places, the sparkle off the water in the ocean, or even certain angles for the water in a bathtub in a house. Even the zoom effect is fantastic looking. Now, did anyone notice the faded murals of the various vocations battling monsters in the first arena? I mean, that just looked absolutely amazing when you get to it.
I've only been into the arena so far just to talk to Monty as I collect stuff, as I collect monsters. So I haven't participated yet.
You don't even have to participate. If you walk up north, there you can go to the arena and walk around, and there's people to talk to and whatnot that give you tips. And there's like these amazing murals that are on the wall in the first arena.
Oh, I walked in there to do a very specific story thing, but other than that, I haven't messed around with the monster arena too much.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm in the pyramid right now, and the architecture that they put together to remake all of these places so far has been so good.
So, Drippy, what did you think of the game visually so far?
Yeah, first glance, when I initially saw it revealed way back when, I don't even remember what year. Yeah, looks amazing. When I actually got it on my screen, initially the sprites, they felt a little stiff to me, kind of like walking around the town. And this, to give a little context to that, this is my first HD 2D game that I've really played, other than Live Alive. But yeah, sometimes at points and certain towns, the character sprites, they don't feel like to scale of some of the towns. But when you get into the world and stuff like that, everything looks good. Yeah, reflections and lighting and bloom and stuff like that. Not sure if it goes to the graphics, but I noticed there's a performance and graphics mode. I toggle them and performance looks less sharp, but I'm like, graphics runs at 60 anyway, so I'm not really sure what the difference is there.
Woodus, how about you?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty awesome. I mean, just between the day and night of how everything looks, and I just spent time walking around just looking at how they designed everything. Like Pendy said, the pyramid is just amazing how it looks on the inside, and all the towns, and just that the overworld has depth to it now instead of just flat. I think they did a really good job with it, and I think the graphics are awesome.
That's always great to hear. Aust, what about you? I know that you're not a graphics whore, but
I mean I am. It's not a breaker for me. I definitely enjoy it when games have like stunning graphics, but that's not what I go after games for. I think it looks beautiful on Xbox or on console and Steam. It's like the frame rate, it runs flawlessly on Steam Deck. The Switch version, when going between the Xbox version and the Switch version, I noticed the difference there pretty significantly. I don't know. I think if you sat there and play it for a while, you're probably gonna tune that sort of thing out. The biggest difference was obviously the frame rate was about half of what it is on the Xbox. The graphics overall were just a bit rougher around the edges, but I mean it's perfectly serviceable on Switch. From what I played on there, the performance doesn't tank in any places, although I've heard that there are some issues later on in some of the areas with more environmental effects, but I haven't seen that personally. One thing I noticed I really liked is how they added a bunch of new geometry to like the terrain and some of the caves and stuff. Like you've got sloping areas that, like when you're in a cave, there's several different examples I can think of where like you feel like you're plunging downward, as opposed to like all the previous versions was really just a flat map. I think that's a great addition. And then like when you're on the overworld, you've got like mountains and stuff, like really high mountains compared to the flat plains around. And I thought that was a great addition, really taking advantage of like the new engine. Makes the whole world sort of come alive in a way it never has before.
Yeah, it gives it some real depth, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's definitely like a game changer as far as being immersed.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. Twinkie, how about you?
Oh, I really love the graphics. I'm kind of a sucker for the whole 2D HD style that Square has. The details they added in the remake is a treat to go through. I love going through old beloved areas and seeing it in the new graphical art style. Though I would have to say that the one thing that really sticks out to me is the lighting. There's just something about the art style and having the hero with his lamp in a dungeon and seeing the glow. It's just, I absolutely love it. I'm a sucker for it. Also, like, I love going to like higher level areas like in the castle or something, and you can look in the background and you'll like see like other areas on the world map in the background. It's just so neat. I love it.
Oh yeah, like when you go to Ibis and you go to like the back of the palace and you can kind of see the world behind it as you look out out the back. It's great.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh yeah, I gotta say I'm absolutely blown away with how this game looks. Going back to what Drippy said earlier about how some of these sprites kind of feel a little stiff and maybe not to scale. That was one of the biggest beefs that I had with the game going into it. Is every time I saw a screenshot of it on a news article or from a press release from Square, I always felt like the character sprites look really small compared to the world around them. But when I was finally able to, get the game and get into it and go around for a little while, it kind of settled for me and it kind of started to look okay. And I didn't have as much of a problem with it. But as Drippy also mentioned, there was a graphics and performance mode on the PS5 version that you can toggle between. And all I can personally tell to where I'm up at, and that's after beating Skyfell Tower, moving on to the Ibis Pyramid afterwards, is that the most I can tell is if you switch it from graphics to performance, all you can really see is the graphics kind of they get a little bit mottled, they kind of blur a little bit. But I've been running in graphics mode the whole time and I haven't experienced any slowdown whatsoever yet. And I figured once I got into the Faerie Village, it was going to be an issue because that I expected that to be an area in the game that just kind of pushed a lot with what was going on with lighting and everything. And game runs great, looks great. And as Twinkie mentioned with the whole lighting system, I love that lantern. They did that lantern thing in the Octopath games when you're in dungeons, and I'm glad they brought it back for this game because I've kind of used it to traverse inside of dungeons because I keep the minimap turned off. So if there are like any hidden pathways, I try to use the lantern to see if it shines down like a side path that I would have missed visually.
Yeah, it's been really great for that. Now, what does everyone think of the music and the sound for this version? And Bururian, we'll go back to you.
I'm kind of a bad person to ask about the music because I've always been someone that's been completely fine with the synth soundtrack of Dragon Quest. It's been nice that we get the orchestral stuff, and we started getting the orchestral stuff like way back in 2005 with Dragon Quest 8, and that kind of set a precedence with a lot of us American gamers with it of we want the orchestral. The orchestral sounds much better than the synth soundtrack, and I've always been fine with synth, but they knocked it out of the park with this. Musically, it sounds so good that I don't know if I can go back to synth anymore in terms of the music. Sound design, fantastic. Case in point, I love the noise your party makes when they land on the ground after a zoom spell, when they just make that plop.
Oh, the thump. I love that too. Yeah.
So I do miss the zoom boom if you try to use the zoom spell inside. So I would have loved to hear that sound design for Hit Roof.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the head bonk.
Yeah. I don't know if that's an actual term. I've always just said zoom boom because it rhymes.
I'm using that forever from now on. That's perfect.
So Drippy, what do you think?
Yeah, it's fun. I actually didn't even realize it now, where it is the orchestral. I actually have the CD for 3. I don't know when it came out. I think it's the same version. I'm not a music person or anything like that. I think it's good. It can get repetitive, but I think that's kind of to be expected. I mean, I can really only think of like 3 songs, 3 or 4. Like, okay, you have the town, the castle, the overworld, and like the dungeon. So that can get a little bit repetitive. But yeah, overall, I think it sounds great. The little touches and stuff like that. Just kind of like jumping forward a little bit. Like specifically one of my characters, when they attack, it really fits the character, and I'll go into that deeper when we get there. But yeah, I think it's good.
Woodus, what about you?
I agree with everybody so far. I'm not a huge music person, so to me, I don't pick out a lot of the instruments and stuff like that. I was fine, like Bururian said, with the synth, and sometimes half the time I don't play with the sound on. Sometimes I'm like Platty in that sense, but I think it sounds great when I do have it on. And again, I don't know all the songs. Like I can't name it in 2 notes like a couple of my kids, and my one son can name any song if you play him 5 notes from it. So, but it sounds awesome. For some reason when I record, it kills the audio through my soundbar, so I'm just getting the sounds out of the TV. So it seems a little flat there, but I think that's just because of my setup. If it was through my soundbar, I think it'd sound even way better. But it's been fun, and just all the little extra, like you said, with the sounds and effects that are with it. Even the grunts and groans from the party members as they're fighting, I like.
Oh yeah, like the addition of voice acting for all of the vocations is like that adds a lot of depth to battle, if you ask me.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Ost, what do you think of the music and sound?
It's funny because I'm usually like the music person, but I feel like this is just Dragon Quest 3. The music is Dragon Quest 3, and so I didn't really have like a lot of thoughts because it's I don't think I've not heard this before. But yeah, when I think about it, it's obviously it's a great version of the soundtrack. I'm not sure if this is a re-recording or if they just used a symphonic suite for it. Does anyone know that?
Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask as well.
I believe I read in a couple of interviews that they actually did re-record it just for this game.
Okay, that makes sense. Did anyone notice, anyone who's played up to this point, when you get to Norvik, the town music is like a lot softer, almost like a lullaby?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a flute solo. I was thinking that like this would be the perfect piece for Blue Star to pick up and play.
Yeah,
It's just the flute by itself.
I like how they did like a special version of it, just because I don't think that plays at night, does it? That's specific for that town, right?
While the inhabitants are under the spell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. But more so than the music, like the ambient sound design has been one of my favorite parts. And I first noticed it when I was in the promontory cave at the beginning, like walking near some water, how you can hear it rushing by. I think probably the best place to hear that sort of thing would be going near the fountain in Romeria. But like even in the overworld and some of the other areas, there's like lots of different sounds. I noticed like nature sounds like at night. And like I think everyone should just put like the music on mute for just a few minutes and walk around and like hear some of the ambient stuff, because some of it gets covered up, when it's not something that's supposed to be immediately jump out and grab you.
No, yeah, I agree. Like about the ambient sounds, because like there's other sounds, like you go near a fireplace, you can hear the fire crackling. When you get to certain points, appropriate points, you can hear the wind whipping around, like when you're up on a tower or over a bridge, which is fantastic. I love all of that. I think, and I could be wrong, but I think the little dude that's sleeping in the town of Reeve, I think you can hear him snoring. I might have to turn off the music and double check that. I think you can hear that too if you walk next to him.
But yeah, check that out.
Yeah, it's fantastic the way they did that. It's just that attention to detail that this game has. One of my only complaints about the sound is that like the voice acting versus the music. Sometimes the music drowns out the voice acting, but you can adjust those levels. So I make the voice acting a little bit higher than the music, and then it's fine for me after that.
Yeah, I also turn the music down a notch just to let some of the other sound breathe more. Because I mean, the music, you can turn it down and still hear it. It's it's great. But I feel like the other things there's such a new addition. Like I kind of didn't want them to get covered up by anything else.
Oh yeah, totally understandable.
Let's give it to like new sound design in games that lets you mix your own audio instead of just never letting you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for real. Because like some people just they appreciate different things, and it's definitely something that should be done more often.
Agreed. Twinkie, what do you think about the music and sound?
Well, I'm more of a sound design kind of guy, so when it comes to music, I don't have much to say. It sounds good. It's on par with what I expected. Some of the orchestral does stick out, like the pyramid theme was really good. I think that's probably my favorite one so far. From a sound design perspective, though, the game is phenomenal. There's a lot of little details like you guys were talking about with the sound design that really are really neat. And I think one of my favorite ones is, I forgot, what's the name of that cloud enemy you fight in the tower?
In the tower?
Yeah, near Romeria. Got the name of the tower. But you fight those.
You mean Skyfell?
Yeah, Skyfell.
So I think it's just a cumulus that's the enemy in that one.
That's it. And when you kill one of them, they make like a popping noise, and it was neat.
Oh yeah. I
make a little pop.
I spent a lot of time in there today just doing cleanup, and yeah, some of the noises that the enemies will make when they're defeated is great, and Cumulus is a great example of that.
Absolutely.
Or the poor little bunnies that make the little eep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor little bunny corns.
Well, that even leads back to the graphics. Some of the death animations are great.
I like the wolves with the eye popping out, and
yeah,
as they hit the ground or whatever, like with the eye like pops out even more. I was like, that's really funny. And like the shades, they just disappear. They don't even, there's no fade or anything like that. They're just like, nope, gone, poof. Like, oh, all right.
Yeah, that's been great. And as far as the soundtrack goes for this game, it's always been so iconic and one of my favorites. The orchestral versions for this game have been very well done. And as always, I appreciate the classic sounds for using stairs or certain battle sound effects and whatnot. But like as I said before, and as Oz brought up, just the ambient sound has been such a nice new addition to this game.
Yeah, they've really gone above and beyond. For the game was kind of, we're gonna remake Dragon Quest 3, and they've done that, but they have really sort of raised the bar on what a remake can be in the sound design department, I feel like.
Yes, and that's something that I've always said about Dragon Quest remakes. Like, this is going back to like the Super Famicom or Super Nintendo era, where fortunately we didn't get these at the time, but like the remakes for, Dragon Quest 3, 1, and 2 back then, for the day, were like one of the best remakes you could find for anything out there. And I can't even remember if there's a lot of remakes of anything back then, but they kind of like, they've always set the bar for a lot of the remakes that they've done.
Yeah. So, going into leaning into the whole remake thing, what does everybody think about the character customization with all its new options and what everybody's initial party is right now? Like, what personality did you start out with for your hero? Did you really go in depth when you created your party, or did you just kind of go boilerplate with all of the designs for, what you can choose for your classes? Feel free to talk about the new Monster Master class if you happen to also pick that. So, Pendy, why don't you lead us off on that one?
Yes, so the new customization options for the other party members have been so cool. I love having so many choices for each class or vocation. For example, I'm not a huge fan of the default female thief design, but some of the other alternates for it are fantastic. I love being able to change the hair color. Currently, I've got like a female warrior with bright green hair, and I just love it. I ended up picking up the Monster Wrangler class, and it's been the MVP of my party. It has amazing abilities, including a good multi-heal that I've gotten so far, and makes collecting monsters for the monster arena so much easier. Plus, I love how not only do they learn skills by themselves, but they learn even more skills as you collect more monsters. Now, funny story about my hero. I got the scenario where you get turned into a demon. I fireballed the first guy, not knowing that would happen, because it says, hey, go ahead and speak to this guy. And then it's like, oh, fireball, now he's dead. Oops. But then I left everyone else alone. Because of that, the goddess was very pleased with me, and I got the Paragon personality. But then I went to see the king. But then I kept telling my mom that I was not going to see the king. And after 3 times of telling her, no, I'm sorry, Mom, I'm not going to go see the king, she gave up and she went away crying. I made my poor mom cry.
Shame on you, Pendy.
Right? Because of that, now I have the contrarian personality. And I didn't realize that until much later. And I didn't know, like, why did my personality change? I didn't do it through an accessory. I didn't read any books. But then I thought back to that whole scenario with the mom. And then I realized that's how it happened. And I tested it and did it again. But and then even after you see the king afterwards, he says something like, man, I wasn't even sure if you were going to show up at all, which I'm guessing is related to what I had done before with telling my mom no all those times. So it was funny. It was a fun time learning.
Did you plan?
My
Did you
actions
plan
would
to do that? That's so funny.
I didn't plan to change my personality, but I did plan to tell my mom, because it's a Dragon Quest game. It's fun to see what happens when you say the wrong thing and see that alternate dialogue. But I didn't realize I would go down that path with my mom by doing that.
That's awesome. That's a really cool detail.
I'm curious if that's in any previous versions now.
You can tell her no, but I don't remember her cry.
Yeah,
she's like,
I don't either.
If you say so, sniff, and then she goes away, and it's like, oh, Mom, I'm so sorry.
Did you also notice that if you do that, when you go to Patty's party planning place, they won't let you make any party members?
Oh, see, I didn't do anything else. I ended up going to the king after that, but that's a cool little detail. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't. It's been so long since I played the others, but I don't think that was a thing then either. But they tell you have to go talk to the king before you can, do that. Which, a little strange why they would let you do it in the first place. I guess that's for the personality thing, though. If you know how to do that to get, what was it? You said contrarian personality.
Yeah, contrarian. Because I'm guessing I don't know if it gives it to you no matter what personality that you had, but it made sense because I had like this paragon personality, this hero, this person that tells the truth and does the right thing, and then I made my poor mom cry. So they said, well, actually, you're not so great, so we're going to call you a contrarian. That might be related. I'm not sure.
That's great. That's wild. That's got to be new to this remake. Drippy, how about you? What did your hero end up with? What kind of party composition did you go with initially?
Yeah, so I wanted to try out the Monster Wrangler. It's a new thing, and I'm pretty persistent with this game. I do a warrior, a mage that I actually just turned into a sage today, and then a cleric. But I wanted to. I always name them after my family. It's cool to see that there are like the other character model options, because I'm not crazy about like the original cleric. The guy with the goatee, and like if I didn't want an an older mage, like, so I actually did, use a couple different models for those, and especially the new female mages. There was one, it's just got it's got a different hat. And that's really all it took. And, changing the hair colors and stuff like that, I could really kind of make them more like, the people that I was naming them after. And so it's kind of funny because I named the Monster Wrangler after my daughter. So she's 4 years old, and there's a childish voice, like, you can select different voice types. So I did the childish. And it's so funny because there will be sometimes in battle where it just sounds like she's like, like running up, just ready to get smacked something in the face, and she just does a ton of damage. I'm like, that's awesome. Like that totally fits. So I got the Plugger personality, and for whatever reason, every time I replay this one, I get the one where you have to push the boulder, and you can, constantly push it back to the old man or whatever. And usually I just do one, whatever. Let's move on. I want to play this game. But I was like, I'm gonna do a few. So I think I ended up pushing 6. So I got Plugger, and I was like, that's weird. But as the game is describing me like this is what it is, I was like, oh my god, I actually like role played in my questions. I was like, I answered them as I would, as they say you would. And then if I can, just a quick description of what they gave me, and I was like, that fits perfectly. So though times may be hard, though the future may be dark, you are never discouraged. You simply knuckle down and press onward towards your goal. At times you may be frustrated, but what matters is that you carry on. And yet, though you remain cheerful and light-hearted, though your doggedness wins you admiration, one day you will tire. You must find someone who accepts you as you are, someone whose company you do not need to struggle. And I was like, I have never felt more, seen.
More seen.
Yeah, I was just like, wow, that was
like right. That was on point for your actual personality, right?
Yeah, absolutely, like 100%. I was like, you could not have been more spot on. So I was like, I am never changing my personality. Like, damn the stat upgrades and increases and stuff like that. I'm like, that no, this is who I am. This is so.
And as you mentioned, I don't know if a lot of people realize it this time, but they've got like the traveler's tips in the option screen.
Mm-hmm.
Before we would all have to go online to a resource to find what the personalities meant. They just throw them in the tutorial menu for you, so you can see what is what.
Oh yeah, I love that, because I'd seen a dialogue option where you get new party members where the person in party's planning place tells you like, oh, you got this personality, this means that. But then I found out what you said afterwards about how you just find it in the menu and it explains them all, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad they put that in the game.
Yeah. So Woodus, how about you? Did you do something new? Did you go old school, classic choice?
Yeah, I went pretty traditional in my setup. I did the warrior, mage, and priest or cleric, but I didn't take the pre-built ones that Patty gives you. I went upstairs and did the build your own kind of character. But I got the same personality that Pendy got. I got the Paragon when I set it up. So, and I kind of sped through the setup of my people. I just, basically picked. I think I spent more time on the voices than I did the look and the hair color, because I kind of wanted to get the right sound for what I was kind of going for all my people.
Did you let the guy choose your seed distribution for you?
I did, and I found out that after you've done the seed distribution, if you back up and choose the hair color again, you can actually get a different personality. So you can just kind of keep going back if you want to try and get a different one than what they give you. So you don't have to go all the way back out and start over.
Right. But because once you confirm, that's it.
Yeah. I think I let him do a couple of them, and then I think for my mage, I wanted to make sure they got a lot of wisdom, so I did that one myself. I do have a question though. So I went with a male hero, a male warrior, and then a female mage and cleric. Did anybody go full male party? And I'm just curious, I'm asking because when you do the puff scene, when I did it, both my females looked away. Does that happen if you have all male characters? I'm curious, or if that's something because they're females.
I'm not sure if that's funny though, because the 2 females are after my wife and daughter, and my male cleric is after my cat. So he was like totally, encouraging me.
Yeah, he was all about it. He's like, how was it?
Like, he was all right, dude, sounds good. And I was like, all right, see you guys later. But then I had to walk back out to my family. But no, that's a great question.
I've not made it far enough to do the puff yet, but if it's anything like Dragon Quest XI, you can see Veronica and Serena and Jade looking very upset that you have gotten it done.
Yeah, what's funny is I had an all-female party, so I got to the lady and then realized that none of my characters were going to do it. So I just went back to Patty base, and I got the little default Linus, the warrior guy, and I brought him along with me and dropped somebody off.
Oh,
And
you
then
got Linus too, huh?
yeah, so I got him just to do that scene because I wanted to get in the house and do the puff and whatnot. And then when he got out, the rest of the at least two of the females in the party like reacted negatively to it. Like one had the little black cloud above her head, and the other one said some kind of sarcastic remark about it. So they weren't happy at all.
So if you have a female hero, she won't do it.
Nope, it has to be a male. You have to have some kind of male party member or male hero, or else the person at that town will not do a puff to anyone.
Interesting. Ost, how about you? You go traditional? Did you try to mix it up this time for the remake?
Yeah, I mean, I did a few things different because used to whenever I'd play 3, like I had a set characters that I always recreated, but I did it differently this time. I usually play with the female hero, did the male hero this time. Got a monster wrangler. Obviously, I figure most of us have done that because it's new. I don't think I've ever accepted the default characters that they make for you at Patty's. I always make my own. But the personality thing, whenever I create mine, I guess I just answer the questions as if it's, how I would really answer them. And I was letting my son play, and when he was creating his, he's 6 years old. I asked him all the questions and had him answer how he felt. And the personality it gave him was narcissist. And and he asked, "What is that?" And I just said, "Nothing. Don't worry about it." But he's 6. That's probably more accurate than inaccurate for a 6-year-old.
Yeah, that's on track for a kid at that age. That's okay.
I just thought that was funny. I've never paid attention to personalities in this game. I've never tried to game it. Sometimes when I get the books, if I have for my characters, I have a personality for them in mind already, what kind of character they are. And so if I see it's a book that's going to make them the brainy one, then yeah, I'll do that. I don't know, I guess just for role play purposes, but I've never really planned out different personality types for the characters, and I don't know, maybe I should do that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I have the monster wrangler, priest, and a martial artist actually, which as I read are not the optimal setup for as far as making the game easy, but it's not that hard of a game anyway.
You're not trying to min-max your party, you're just trying to enjoy yourself. So.
Right. Yeah. I just I want to, all the other Dragon Quest games have set party members that you remember, and I don't know, I guess I'm trying to recreate my own version of that. I do the same thing in Dragon Quest 9,
Right.
Have party members that'll stick in my head and that I'll remember.
Yeah. So Twinkie, how about you? Did you stay the course? Did you mix it up?
I mixed it up with the monster wrangler. I didn't really want to go too crazy with the party, so I went with the mage and priest, which are two classes I'm very familiar with, always have been familiar with. So I decided to play it safe since I'm playing with the new class, so I went with them. And considering I had no idea what the monster wrangler was capable of, as I said, I wanted them to be familiar with those classes. As for the personality trait thing, I ended up with narcissist. I don't know how to feel about that, if I'm going to be honest. But I kept with that until I got the book where I changed my personality trait to meathead because I just want to hit things. So
sword and board kind of guy, huh?
Yeah. As for the monster wrangler class, though, so far I like it. I am a huge fan of multi-thrust ability in all Dragon Quest games. So getting an earlier version of that with the monster wrangler, super happy. Love it.
Oh, they using that.
They are. Yeah, it's so good early game. It is so good.
Yeah, because there's that one, the wolf type one that gives you 3 hits, but then there's the one later on that you get that's based off the power of the monsters that you've collected, and wow, that one packs a punch.
Yeah, that one hits an additional time, and you can potentially get up to 100 points of damage for 8 MP spent. It's wild.
That's how I got through the Tower Above All Trades. I was just oh yeah, I have this ability, and just clear the line out.
It's like a stronger version of Bang for cheaper almost. So you kind of stuck the course, but you dabbled a little bit with the new class. So when it comes to me, I had the same party composition as Twinkie. I did monster wrangler, priest, and a mage. My mage character I have used ever since I was a kid. I have always used the same mage character. I always name her the same thing. I always make her a mage, and I always turn her into a sage later in the game. But the other 2 party members kind of changed throughout the years. And this time, with the new class, obviously, I was gotta do the new class, gotta do the monster wrangler. Don't know how it's going to play out. I assumed it was going to be kind of like a mix between a martial artist artist and maybe not a thief, but like maybe the warrior. It was going to kind of be a mix between those two, but with obviously with like monster abilities. I've kind of more or less been so far correct on that, and it's been fantastic. As for my hero, my personality was straight arrow, and I feel very seen with that because I answered all of the questions as I should have, like as I would personally answer them. I just kind of rocketed through them. And whenever I play Dragon Quest 3, it doesn't matter the version. I always get the same like personality test, which is traversing the cave. You read the sign, it says, go to the west, do not go north. So I go to the west. And then I hit that sign on the west and it says, go south, do not go north. So I follow the signs all the way to the end. And then there's always like a lady stuck under a boulder that's just like, help me, help me. Nobody else, everybody else just keeps walking by. And I'm like, I got to help the lady under a rock. And I free her from the rock. You can just walk past her and end it, but I always free her from the rock and that finishes it. But this time I got straight arrow. Sometimes I either get Paragon or Valiant based on the questions I get asked, but I got straight arrow this time, which is pretty much my personality in real life.
Does the birthday ever mean anything? I feel like that was what determined your personality test.
I feel like, I'm sure if you go on to one of the Dragon Quest wikis, it breaks it down, but I do believe that your birthday sort of controls what questions you're given.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a lot. There is a lot of questions from a total pool that you're given, and I always seem to get somewhat of the same ones. I get like the same 10 or 15. I swear every time I play this game.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there were that many.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's dozens and dozens of questions.
Yeah, and there's like four or five different scenarios that you can be put in based off of those questions as well.
Yes, and if I don't get the one of traversing the cave, I always get the one of I'm the monster, and if you go up and talk to anybody, you end up just torching them. So
Yeah, that's the one I got.
yeah,
I always get the one where you have to push the boulder to the old man.
I have never gotten that one.
Same.
I feel like that's the only one I ever get, and I thought it was tied to birthday or something like that. Yeah.
It might be. There is. I do know that somewhere out there. Maybe it's. Do you have this in your repository, Woodus? I feel like that there is a flow chart for the questions out there. If you want to earn this test, answer the questions in such a way.
I don't think so.
Game 8 put out one for this game though, so there is a flowchart.
Yeah, so it might be a little bit different now. I guess we'll have to compare and contrast. But that's about where I was. I mixed it up only a slight amount with the Monster Wrangler. But hey, we got to try the new class, right?
I did switch to Monster Wrangler now that I hit the Abbey.
Oh, nice.
And I've liked it since I switched.
Okay, so since you didn't start with a Monster Wrangler, how much trouble did you have recruiting friendly monsters up until that point?
I would have changed how I did it, knowing that, because there's about half of them. I don't know how many you're supposed to have hit by the time you get to the Abbey. I probably had 6 or 7, I think, by then, and there were a handful that you could lure with just having musk, but then there were others that would run away by the sound of your footsteps.
Right.
And I don't know if you have thief in your party, if you can avoid that or not, which I didn't, so I didn't know if that would help with the noise.
From what I read, you can use the thief's pad foot to approach.
I didn't have any runaway until I changed my Monster Wrangler to martial artist.
Yeah, with the Monster Wrangler, you could walk straight up to him and not have any issue.
Given, it seems like.
That's why I'll never change it. I thought about changing it, the Monster Wrangler, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm having fun with this class, and then I'd have to go deeper into getting monsters, so I'm like, I'm just keeping them.
Yeah,
me too.
So by the time you at least in the Romaria portion and you're heading to Asham, where you go to the pyramid, there's 10 monsters available. So So there's a lot. I think from what I read, there is somewhere north of 100 recruitable monsters in this game.
Wow. Yeah, and even some when you get to Romaria, you can't recruit at that point because I think you need like the Mirror of Ra or something, because there's like some people who are actually monsters and stuff like that. I got up to the pyramid and I've got 10 so far.
Yeah, that's about where I ended with just party composition for now.
Gotcha. Now, did anyone pick up the collector's edition, and what did you think of it?
I think it's just you.
Yeah, you're the only one.
Oh, okay. So just me then. Okay, well, thanks for the great question, Pendy. You're welcome, Pendy. Tell us all about it. You got it, Pendy. I love it. So the acrylic stands are actually much better than I thought they would be. 18 heroes, 1 Dragon Quest 3 stand, stand, and one Zoma and Baramos that tower above the rest. For all of them, they're very chonky, about 3 times thicker than the Dragon Quest acrylic stands that I've gotten in the past for like Die, Dragon Quest VIII, Your Story, and other titles and anime. And with the heroes, not only do they have the design on the front, but they have their back design as well on the back of the stand. So that was cool. I've never seen that before with an acrylic stand. The display book is very nice with the box art inside that matches the box art of the game. It has room for Dragon Quest 3 and Dragon Quest 1 and 2 when it comes out next year. So when you insert the games into the box, all the art matches up. Looks really nice. Now, Twinkie, I saw you imported the Japanese version of this. You haven't gotten it yet, but I believe it has something the North American and the European versions do not have. Can you tell us about that?
And that's the reversible hardcover and the game case, right?
Oh, that's part of it. I even forgot about that. But don't you get like an extra item, like a red shield or something?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because I saw in the advertisements for it, there's a red shield and a sword that you get in addition to everything else that's going to be related to something I'll talk about later. But that's nice that you'll get that too. But that's something I saw with, I don't know if the European version is like that, but the Japanese version and like the Southeast Asian version, the box art has a reversible cover that our version does not have, which I was very disappointed that we did not get that.
Yeah, it seems like every region outside of North America gets something like that. That happened with the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, and the Asia version got this nice like inlay art, and the North American version just gets, the limited warranty white print on the inside of the cover.
Yeah, because I think with Dragon Quest 3, for the regions that did get the reversible cover, I think it has the classic box art from the very first game on the Famicom, and also it has like a picture of Erdrick just kind of standing out on a ledge holding the sword as well on the other side of it. But oh well, we didn't get that one. So maybe I'll collect that one day just so that I can have that. Now, what does everyone think of the battle system? And Bururian, I'll throw this back to you on what you think.
You know what? I am a sucker for standard turn-based battle systems, so it was great. I liked that they show the character models from behind between rounds. I know that there's been a little bit of contention on that point with some people. I've seen it posted on the Den Discord. I've seen it a little bit on the Dragon Quest subreddit of they wanted to see, those sprites doing their attacks between round or during rounds and stuff like that. I think it's great. I love the animations. I'm glad they brought back the monster animations from the Super Famicom version. I was kind of afraid for a while because it seemed like they were going for, this is a remake of the Famicom version and we're going to stick to everything about the Famicom version. And just like the, Dragon Quest 4 when it came out on the DS, they didn't give us animated sprites. And I thought that might happen here, but not the case. They went above and beyond. We have these beautiful monster animations for attacks, for getting hit, for how our characters look, even with how our weapons are equipped. Because when you change weapons on characters, it actually reflects that during battle. I have no complaints about the battle system.
Nice. Aust, what are your thoughts on the battle system?
This is one of the things I actually think they could have changed a little bit here, and it might have made the game, at least to me, it would have made it better. The big thing is like, maybe this is more of a quality of life thing, but I would like to see like what actions I've selected for each character during my turn. I think that's something that 11 had, because like I'm the most forgetful person I know. So like I'll have my hero heal somebody, and then by the time I get down to my priest, who is the last one, I don't remember what I've selected for hero. So I would really like to see like what actions I've assigned to each character.
Oh yeah, you know what? That's a good point. They totally did not do that with the battle system here.
Yeah, and it's not a huge deal. Obviously it was never a thing with DQ3 in the past. I just feel like it's kind of like a no-brainer to make things just more accessible, because then I just end up backing up and reselecting all the actions again. And I would like you mentioned, I would kind of like to see my characters like in the battle. Not I don't like it when the camera zooms into first person. Again, it's not a huge deal. It's kind of like a tease, because you get to see them when you're selecting your turns, and you get to see like the weapons that they're holding, because when you equip them, they don't change their outfits, but they do hold whatever weapon you have equipped on them, and you can see that in the battle. But then it zooms into the monsters when you attack, and you don't actually get to see them using the weapons. That's just a minor thing. I know Platy's big contention point was that he missed the incremental turn-based system from 11, where like you select a character's attack, and then it does it like in initiative order, like you would in Dungeons and Dragons. Woodus, for example. Each character takes their action on their turn and then it goes to the next character, and it's not round based. I kind of agree with him. It's not a deal breaker for me by any means, because I've played a lot of Dragon Quest and the majority of Dragon Quest does not do it the modern way. But it was something in 11 that I appreciated a lot. And if they had done that here, probably a lot of old school fans would have been more upset than there are people who are upset that they didn't do it this way, just because that would be changing a fundamental mechanic of DQ3. But part of me kind of thinks that it would have been nice to have the option, like selecting a different battle mode, but that might have been too confusing for new fans. So I don't know. I'm undecided on that.
Feels like they didn't want to rock the boat on the Japanese crowd with this.
Yeah, I've read an interview where they were making this for Japanese fans, long-term fans first, and that definitely would have probably not have gone over.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. What do you think, Twinkie?
Yeah, the combat is on par what I expected. It's fine. I do have a couple issues with it though. The first being is the menu itself. While I like the simplified menu, no flair, no BS added to the menu stuff, I am not a fan on how like spell and ability menus still have like empty slots of like, oh, you're going to learn a skill that fits in here. It's just kind of obnoxious to me. I know this isn't like a new issue with Dragon Quest 3. It's been in the previous games, but I just kind of wish they modernized it just a little bit so to kind of consolidate it, because I feel like those blank slots would have been better in like a status menu to know what spells you can still learn and stuff like that. And it does get tiresome. Like you get like a priest, use a whoosh, and then it's like, oh, you got to heal next turn, and you got to go over a couple pages. It kind of gets annoying. It gets a little tiresome, but it's not a big deal. And a kind of another issue I have with the combat system is that with the difficulty itself, Draconian is fine for the most part, but it just feels like with the new stuff that they added, it kind of makes it a little too easy for my liking, especially as someone who's gone through full Draconian settings on 11. It's kind of a bit of a letdown with the combat. It feels a little too easy, but at the end of the day, I'm still having a lot of fun with it.
So what can you elaborate on the quality of life improvements that have kind of made Draconian a bit more of a cakewalk for you?
Like, it's just like one big thing is that I don't like to grind for money, but you go over around, like, how you find those little sparkly spots on the world map?
Yeah.
You find actually quite a bit of good gear in some of those spots. And that good gear, even though I don't use it or don't want to use it, I can still sell that and I can get better gear like earlier than I would before, and I would have better gear than I would in the original version. So it kind of makes that a little bit easier.
Oh, right.
It's kind of the economy aspect of it.
Because the economy action of getting these items from the sparkly spots offsets the Draconian mode of telling you, hey, the monsters aren't going to give you as much gold, so you're going to have to scrimp a little harder on the gear you get. But it's completely, the challenge is removed from visiting these sparkly spots and getting, wow, I got a fur hood like 2 towns before I should be able to get one. Now I can sell it and get something really good, something better.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. Especially with the sparkly spots throwing those seeds out with reckless abandon.
Oh, that too, yeah.
But yeah, I totally understand that.
Now, Drippy, what do you think of the battle system?
Yeah, and also kind of piggybacking off of the equipment and stuff. Yeah, with the sparkle spots and stuff like that, I just got to Muir, or how do you say it, and that was like the first time where I almost didn't have enough to fully upgrade everything. And I'm playing on normal, but but for the battles, it's good comfort food gameplay. I love turn-based. I've been playing a bunch of RPGs this year, and I think my favorite part is seeing the characters with the actual weapons. It's just more immersive. I mean, it is kind of weird seeing the hero always having a sword on their back and then also holding a whip, but it's like whatever. That's the character model. That's not going to change. I wish there was kind of like an auto battle system. Not so much, but in the battles that are going to take me 2 turns, I know what I need to do. I know what I need to hit every single weakness. I wish I could just like put it in for the first time, press square, have it do it again, and just get the battle over quicker instead of having to go through all the menus, reselect it and stuff like that. It's like, I mean, again, it's nothing major. It's what, probably 30 seconds instead of 15 seconds for each battle.
You want that Final Fantasy Pixel remaster of press square, get all of your actions from your previous battle and you just do that
yeah,
again.
exactly. Yeah. And I was like trying to think, I was like, where did I know this from? Because yeah, I was like, I know I've seen this in the game. Yes, so that's exactly what I'm talking about. The encounter rate's pretty high, and it can kind of get annoying, because the game and some of the marketing was like, explore the world, find all these secret spaces, find all the, the hidden things. It's like, okay, I can see one in the distance, and kind of like going back to before, talking about the terrain and stuff like that. Like I actually walked up a mountain earlier today to like see, okay, I needed to get a better view of my surroundings. And it's like, I'm climbing up this mountain. I'm probably going to run into two battles, like one on the way up, one on the way down. And I'm just like, I just give me a breather, and the way I kind of have grown with RPGs and stuff like that, high encounter rates, it's kind of good anyways, because it alleviates like the eventual grinding. Like I'm going to be getting into fights anyways, like whatever. I'm going to be getting into these fights. I might as well just get the experience, stuff like that. I'm not going to run away. So, okay, yeah, it does kind of help, but it is also kind of annoying, every 7 to 10 seconds, maybe getting into another battle.
Do you feel like, because a lot of these older games that get remakes kind of switch over to the whole, we're not doing random battles anymore, enemies on the field. Do you feel like the whole kind of switch to that has kind of made random battles feel like they have a higher encounter rate compared to systems that use enemies on the field so that you can choose when you enter battle comparatively?
Possibly, but also with the ones where I can see them on the field, I'm going to be hitting them anyways. And I don't know if it's like just an OCD, like, oh, the thing is in front of me, I must kill it. Yeah, I mean, I find myself doing that as well. So yeah, I'm not really sure if that just kind of changed my mindset.
Well, that makes sense. Woodus, what do you think of it, all this battling?
It's pretty much what I was expecting. I mean, it's pretty much based on the older ones. The one thing that kind of bugged me, though, there wasn't any way to see your status ailments or buffs except when you're on the selection screen, when you're inputting commands. Kind of like they were saying that you forget what you did by the time you select your fourth player. By the time it gets to the end of the round, I forget if somebody's poisoned or not. And I'm playing with just tactics mode on all my characters except the hero. So, I mean, it's 1 click, 2 clicks, and I hardly see that screen anyway. So it'd be nice if next to your HP or something would show if you were poisoned or decelerated or something like that.
You're talking
I
during
agree.
like round actions when
Yes.
after you've put it in. Yeah,
Correct.
that because you see the effects happen to you from the enemies, but it doesn't denote until it's your turn to input round actions.
Again, yes. And like I said, I'm playing with tactics on, so I'm only inputting instructions for the hero, so I'm not really
Right.
focused on that screen all that much.
Right. You just bam bam, you're into the next round.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can understand that, especially if you're playing with a tactics mode of having your other 3 party members just do the tactic that you input them to do. That can get very tiresome very quickly with crap. I forgot to heal their poison again.
Yeah. There's been many times I've gotten out of the battle and I'm like, what's that ticking noise? I'm like, oh, somebody's poisoned. And talking about the equipment and how much stuff you get from the overworld. I mean, I just got the ship, and I think I've purchased 1 piece of armor or weaponry so far.
Which difficulty are you doing?
I'm just doing normal.
So you're doing Dragon Quest mode.
Yes.
Okay.
So they definitely give you plenty of stuff if you don't want to buy anything. I don't know how much that affects the Draconian. Obviously, it's going to be more difficult.
Yeah, I'm personally playing on Draconian mode, and I have felt that it has not been too different from Super Famicom version's baseline difficulty. But I always hear that compared to where I'm at and the later, further in the game, that it's going to scale accordingly. So I'm waiting to hit that point. Because I'm only at going to the pyramid. Like I'm on the way. I gotta cross over to Portuga. So
Yeah, you're getting right to where it starts to make a difference when it comes to Draconian.
because I did the whole opening, like, basically, your opening island that you're on, that's basically the tutorial to get you out to Remeria and go from there. And I was just like, this isn't very hard at all. So I'm waiting. I'm literally waiting for that spike in difficulty for me to go, oh, I've made my decision. What do you think about the battle system?
So for me, I really enjoyed it. I actually like how they went traditional and kept it first person, but then for every round of actions, you get to see your heroes, what afflictions they might have, and I'm more of a manual user kind of guy. I don't usually use tactics that often. And it will also show, as we've said, what equipment they have in their hands, which is great. To me, it's a fun compromise between like old school and new school. I love that boomerangs and whips get critical hits now. I think this is the first Dragon Quest game to do that, and I hope that continues for future games. The noises all the monsters make are great, as we brought up before, and all the voice work for the heroes. I think deciding the voices was one of my tougher choices when it came to customizing my party, actually. The only thing I'm really disappointed in is the difficulty. I started out in normal or Dragon Quest mode, but it was so easy that I quickly switched it to Draconian in the starting island, Alihan. Even that seemed easy, but as I started to get towards the desert, the difficulty did start to ramp up a little bit and has done so even more as I explore the pyramid. I think a key difference among the other things that they made for Draconian is that more monsters will have multiple attacks compared to other difficulties. So this becomes more apparent as you go along. For example, a griller pillar potentially hitting you with 2 flame breaths can be very dangerous in the same turn. And I hear that the canna boxes and the mimics that I'm about to run into are no joke either, as they should be. I've seen people get wiped out from those.
Cast whack twice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can run into that kind of thing. And lastly, the addition of abilities that all the vocations now are great. Like, no longer is the warrior just attacking and that's it. They have given the warrior, along with other vocations, very useful abilities, and I've really loved seeing those in this game.
It's awesome. Well, continuing off that train of thought, why don't we talk about what our favorite and maybe not so favorite new additions or differences that are present in this version? This could be additions such as, monster hunting, the quality of life additions, the difficulty that we've already talked about, the voice acting that we've already touched on, or my most sour note, the lack of TNT. Pendy, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, the voice acting has been great. I know there's at least one returning English voice actress from 11 in there, which was cool to see. I also appreciate that they have a Japanese option for voice acting as well. Who gets voiced so far has been pretty good for the most part, though I did find it kind of odd that the Queen of Ibis doesn't get a voice. I think that would have been cool to see who they got to voice her, but oh well. Like you said, I don't like that TNT is out, but thankfully the monster arena makes up for it. Collecting all the monsters have been so much fun, and I love battling in the arenas. Coaching my team to victory has been great, or to a loss, because I tried level 4 recently and I got my butt handed to me, so I'll go back to that later.
I can't wait to really lean into the monster hunting, or not the monster hunting, but the monster fighting stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. The monster arena in the old versions were useless. I mean, it was fun to bet on monsters for about 2 minutes, but then it got boring. And it was so random. Yeah, it was so random. You couldn't really make any money off of it anyways.
In the Switch version, you could save scum at the monster arena and make tons of money.
Oh, could you? I never was able to do that because the outcomes, no matter who it was, seemed to be very random.
Yeah.
Was it random each time, or maybe I'm just thinking of save states, but I could have sworn you could quick save before and make tons of money.
I think you could. I think you could do a quick save in the Switch version.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. But it was just frustrating because like you would almost never get like the same result from a monster battle, because it was never, there'd be percentages that they would give you on like, oh, this person has a 2% chance of winning, an 80% chance of winning, or whatever. But sometimes like the guy with a 2% chance would somehow pull it out more than I thought they would, and I just didn't want to wait around or save state scum for that.
So what are your thoughts on this, Aust?
I have some thoughts. No, okay, it's not that bad. Yeah, so TNT Pachisi, for those of you who don't know, was it was a fun like board game type of thing that was in 3 and 5, and I think the only other game it's been in was Dragon Quest X, which I'm sure most people here have not played.
It has a mode in Dragon Quest Theatrhythm as well. It has its own whole game mode that you do as well.
It had it in Dragon Quest Tact when we had that too.
Oh, I did not know that. I would have played that if I'd known.
It was fun.
No, I'm a huge fan of that minigame because it was in Dragon Quest V, which is my favorite, and it's just a fun thing. I've been wanting them to do like a spin-off mobile version or something like that with just TNT. And it was on the Game Boy Color version of 3 before this, and it didn't come over on the mobile and Switch ports because that was built off of the Super Famicom remake, which I understood why it wasn't there. And I'm really bummed out that it was not in this version, but it's fine. It's not a deal breaker or anything. But since everyone's talked about difficulty and I didn't get to, I'll leverage the quality of life portion of this discussion into that. I started out on Draconian, and I feel like I had the easiest time out of everyone I've talked to at the beginning. Like the game was not challenging at all until I reached Robin Hood, Kandar, but they call him Robin Robin Hood fight, and that was challenging. And then after that was over, it sort of went back to being easy again until I reached the pyramid, and that was where things ramped up pretty heavily and hasn't really gone back to being easy since. So that's definitely a good thing. I don't mind them making the start of the game a little bit more accessible to newcomers, as long as the whole game, wasn't too easy. However, I'm still like people have mentioned, I'm still finding a ton of gear and just a ton of items in general, tons of seeds, just all sorts of things. I think the game throws like 15 chimera wings at you at just an Elia hand.
They want you to get where you need to go, is what it is.
Yeah. And that's fine, especially for like the start, like what's basically the tutorial continent. That's fine for that. It's just even now, like when the difficulty is ramped up, so I'm like I've got so much gear that I don't need. But the other quality of life features that I do enjoy are the battle speed. That's something that I think should be in every Dragon Quest game, where you can increase the battle speed. I keep mine on ultra fast all the time.
Oh yeah, I tried it on normal, and I was like, this is normal.
The normal speed was just painfully slow for me. So ultra fast was a little bit too much, but I ended up settling on fast, and I like that speed for mine.
Same.
I the only thing that I wish with ties to the battle speed is that it didn't also increase the animation cycles of the enemies.
Yeah, with ultra fast, they're just like bopping along like a little too fast for me. So I'm like, I'll stick with fast. It looks fine there.
Yeah, I don't know how much weight this has, but I read that it's a bug with the localization, that it's not the normal speed is not that slow in the Japanese version.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
I actually tested this. If you change your language settings in the options, it actually is relatively normal.
So normal is actually faster than what we have in the English setting.
Yeah, there's something bugged with the English localization. I also had someone tell me that the French localization was also the same way too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Any additional comments on quality of life improvements, additions, voice acting, so on and so forth?
Oh, the memory recall feature. That's pretty great.
I'm glad they brought it back.
What version was that in before?
That was in the Game Boy
6.
Color version.
Okay.
was it?
See, I haven't really played that, other than getting to Pachisi and then not playing anything else.
Yeah, Recall was in the Game Boy Color version, and then it was gone after that.
Okay. Yeah, using that like after you find a locked door, like a magic key door or ultimate key door, using that to mark it, because you can go back and just exactly see the location where it's at.
Oh yeah, I did the same thing.
Considered that. Oh my god.
Oh, it's a
That's
great
cool.
tip for the game for everyone involved if you want to remember where all those doors are, because it'll get the little text will say like the door is locked, and then you press the button, the plus, for Switch, and then that will record it, and you'll have the little picture of where it is, and it'll be
Where
by
it is,
town,
in what region, and what town. Keep in mind that you can only have 30 things remembered at any one given time.
Right. So
Okay,
whenever I
yeah.
get the key and I go back to a door and I unlock it, then I erase that memory. So that's how I've been able to battle that. Like I've only used it for like one. I may use it more once I get the ship and I go out farther, but I've only used it for one actual clue where the kids are talking about what buttons to press. I used it for that. But beyond that, it's just been locked doors.
All right, Twinkie, you have any input that you would like to add in on some quality of life improvements, Monster Hunting, so on and so forth?
Yeah, when it comes to like new stuff, I think the biggest, most appealing thing is the Monster Wrangler class, honestly. While I do like the monster recruitment and the arena that's built around the class, essentially, it's really the class itself that I really like. It's been really fun to experiment with it, tinker around, and just be overpowered at certain points with it.
Right.
But yeah. As with like TNT not being in the game though, I'm kind of whatever, if I'm going to be honest. Like, it's sad it's not there, but at the same time, it's not really taking anything away from me too much for my enjoyment of the game so far.
Oh it was a fun additional thing you could do, but
Yeah.
there's other ways to play it. So
Right.
it's a bummer that it's not here, but I'm kind of with you on that.
And when it comes to like new additions and stuff, I understand with this remake they wanted to like upscale it a little bit, kind of make it more grand, which is fine, but it kind of created this small problem where it just feels like it takes too long to do things that were a lot faster in the previous games. Like, for example, like Alahan is a lot bigger now. So when you teleport there, it's like, oh, I got quite a few mini medals I got to turn in. Well, it feels like it just takes forever just to get into the well, just to turn them in now. And I just kind of feel like the game could have been scaled down by like 10 or 20% a little bit when it comes to traveling, because I feel like even the world map's a little too much.
I feel like you should have been able to zoom straight to him instead instead of.
Yeah, that would have been nice, but
Make you work for them. Haha.
Was
but really,
is for-
that's like the only complaint I really have outside of the difficulty. Is just that I feel like it just takes a little too long from point A to point B. But at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal, honestly. So I'm there to chill out, so it doesn't bother me too much.
And you mentioned something about having a slight issue with the difficulty.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the difficulty Draconian just kind of, I was expecting more out of it. As I mentioned before, I've completed a full Draconian run on Dragon Quest XI, and that's honestly probably one of my favorite experiences in Dragon Quest I had in a long time.
So you did all of the options?
I
for the
did all
Draconian?
the options, yes.
Oh,
I did
wow.
all
Like
of them except
in
for the
one
post-game
run?
stuff. Yeah, in one run.
Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty hardcore, dude.
It is, but it was a lot of fun. It was one of my most enjoyable Dragon Quest experiences I had in a while, and I wasn't really expecting the same level with the remake. I was just kind of expecting like a decent like little challenge bump up in difficulty, but instead we kind of got the original difficulty that's just a smidge easier. So I'm kind of a little disappointed by that.
So
But
kind of like the difficulties increased in the way that you get a little bit of less experience and gold, but not much changes outside of that.
yeah, it just kind of feels like I'm playing the original in terms of difficulty for the most part, just a little bit easier. So as someone who's a challenge seeker when it comes to RPGs, it's a little disappointing, but it is what it is. It's still fun. I'm still having fun. And I just got past the pyramid, and from what everyone's been saying, like the difficulty kind of, gets better after that point. And as the pyramid was pretty dang difficult at that point too. So I was pretty content with that. So hopefully this isn't really a big issue going forward with the game. So
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us are still kind of in the early game in those terms. I've seen some people on the Den Discord. I think I've seen one or two now that are like, yeah, I finished the game already with it being out for 2 or 3 days. So,
Yeah,
but
I
don't.
got the boat. And Orochi is still as difficult as you'd expect. I've had to grind just to get ready for that.
Just a smidge. So, how about you, Drippy? What kind of input you have on the quality of life changes of this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the voice acting is definitely a good addition. I wasn't really sure how they would implement it. I'm just so used to this being just text-based, and just in general with Dragon Quest, it wasn't really until 8 and 11 and stuff like that where it was really voice acted. But I was like, oh, how are they going to do this? And it's good. Just like the little, obviously the voice lines and stuff like that, especially for story moments and stuff. In one, it helps me understand like the places where they have like different accents, stuff like that, and the text also kind of goes with that accent. So actually being able to hear the lines and stuff like that, it definitely makes a lot more, I don't know if immersive or whatever, but it's a great addition. It really helps out. And yeah, hearing like your teammates say this spell names as they're casting them, or like my cleric, I caught him saying one time where he healed one of my party members and he's like, oh, it's not so bad, or it's only a scratch or whatever. Like it just really puts you in the world there. I'm not really one for going out and collecting a lot of things, but finding the monsters and stuff like that, and just kind of the monster wrangler overall, I have never really been a big arena person like an 8 or anything like that. But where I'm going through the world, and actually so again, I'm not really sure how many specific monsters you can have in your team. I know we mentioned over 100, but like if you are to get basically, like if you get a slime and then you find another slime, you don't get 2 slimes, it just levels up your first one, and they keep the same name and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool, where you can kind of feel like, oh, this was my first monster, and I've just been building them up, stuff like that. So that kind of adds to it. It doesn't feel like you're kind of wasting your time just getting another slime. So.
Yeah, and I saw with the slime, he has like 8 different abilities and spells he can learn. So it looks like you can level him up a lot eventually.
Yeah, the furthest I've gotten, I've only gotten a few up to level 2. And so I have been using not using a guide, but I have a RPG site, and they actually just kind of reworked it, and just kind of like they had it in alphabetical order, but now they have it in a chronological order as well. So basically, when I would go to a new area, I would just type in the area and see okay, is there anything in this area that I should be made aware of? And then like the Monster Wrangler, they actually have the Animal Instincts ability. So basically you can do that. It'll say yep, there's no monsters here, or there's one nearby, or there would be one here, but it's not the right time. So, that definitely kind of helps you keep track of that as well.
Woodus, how do you feel about the changes made in the game?
I agree with everything everybody said so far. I personally liked the upscale of the overworld, but I just like wandering around and looking for hidden spots and the special areas, and so I kind of enjoy that. So I do like that they blew it up. So when they come out with 1 and 2, do you think think they'll have a full-size 1 in the 2 map?
Oh, that would be cool.
I'm curious about
Yeah.
that, to be honest. Or if it'll be 75% scaled down like it is in Dragon Quest II.
Yeah, so that'll be kind of interesting because that'll be a huge world if they do that.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, for me too, like the exploration of the world map has been great. I agree. Like I can see why they blew it up from those initial screenshots they put out like many years ago. And the sparkly spots and the hidden areas that sometimes have like people, collectible monsters, or other items to find are great. And I'm starting to see some of those areas only accessible by boat or by bird that will be great to explore later on.
Yeah, another one of those spots I probably should have used the recall to remember where some of that stuff was.
Yeah,
Good thing with the
there's
doors.
a woman. There's a woman early on right outside of Romaria that gives you. She's like, here's where 5 secret spots are located. So I memorized what she said, and I would just pull it up as I was working around the world map. Now, for me personally, like I said, I'm a little sour about the TNT stuff, but hey, it's not there. I can't really complain about it. Kind of like with the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, they based those versions on their original release versions. The original release version of Dragon Quest III did not have TNT, so we don't see it here. I'll just have to live with it. One quality of life improvement that I particularly enjoyed that nobody else mentioned was the ability to walk or run. And I liked it because my favorite version of Dragon Quest III happens to be the Game Boy Color version. Don't ask me why. It's just the one that I've played the absolute most compared to all of the other versions. And I think it was just because of at the time the portability of it, the monster animations. But I also really liked that when you were in towns, your party zipped around the map, and when you were in dungeons or on the world map, you moved a little bit slower. So whenever I would enter towns, I have my run set to toggle, so I would just tap circle and I'm speeding around the map. Or if, for example, I go into a dungeon, the first time I'm in the dungeon, I walk around slowly to explore the dungeon. And the quality of life improvement that they put in this game is they give you a mini map now. So you can kind of look at what you're seeing, where you're going. I don't want that. I turn it off so that I can explore the dungeon in a more organic sense. So if I explore the dungeon and I leave and I come back in, well, guess what? You can pull up square and you get a full map of, whatever level of the dungeon you're on. So I kind of go with the mindset of, well, the first time I went through and I looked around at everything, my party made a map. So now I'm free to look at the map as I go through because I've already been here before. But generally, first time I'm in an area, I'm not looking at the mini map because I turn that off, and I don't pull up the map to look at where all the dead ends are to where I know there's going to be, a treasure chest or an item that I can pick up, because that just kind of takes away from the experience for me. Because when we were all probably playing these originally, we were using paper maps to navigate the dungeons.
Grid paper.
Oh yeah, you know what? I've done that, but I just use that to kind of accentuate the second visit to a location of, I've been here, my party's mapped it out, I'm fine with looking at the map now. But also, I loved having the voiced quote unquote cutscenes with specific areas, like beginning of the game, going to see the king, seeing some flashbacks with all of that. The cutscenes that we get with the King of Romaria when we return his crown to him and stuff like that. So they're all really nice. Immersive quality of life improvements for me. I don't think I have had really too much to say negative about it, except I think we've all touched on this at least twice now about Draconian doesn't feel as hard as it can be, but apparently I'll eventually get there to where it is. So once we cross that threshold, you'll probably see me complaining a lot more about it.
Woodus, did you have any more points that you wanted to bring up from before?
It's been a while since I've played any version of 3. Are there more zoom spots in this one than there were in the most recent one?
Yeah, I think so, because in this version, it seems like you can zoom directly
Everywhere.
to dungeons now.
Yeah.
And you could not do that before. You can only do towns.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought I was being crazy. Why in the hell they didn't add the mini metal guy then as a zoom spot?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I brought it up, because it's just,
earlier.
because he's already inside of a town. But it's like, unless you've already, unless you've already been to him, you're not going to know he's there. Because I think only one NPC's like, there's some weird dude living at the bottom of the well.
Finally, we would be remiss without mentioning the increase of nuns that are out there giving game clues or saving your game. As Incog from the Dragon's Den Discord server said, the new name for this game should be Dragon Quest III HD HD 2D remake, conveniently placed nuns.
He's not wrong.
Right? There's so many of them now, and they're very convenient for more saves. And someone was talking about one of them at All Trades Abbey that has a very good tip for the game. So I was like, oh, he's right. Conveniently placed nuns for sure. Before we move on, we have Jay, who is a constant guest on our show. He could not make it to our recording, but he wanted to write down some thoughts that we'll pass along, his impressions of the game. He says, some thoughts as I reached the dungeon where you fight Kandar, who's now Robin Hood. Game's really easy, even on the hardest difficulty. Seeds are all over the place, and sparkly spots give up-to-date equipment, making shopping unnecessary. It seems you also level faster than I remember. Monster Wrangler is cool. They get skills from recruiting monsters too. Monster Arena is nice, but having no control over them is a little frustrating. So now that we've seen what Jay thinks of the game, what are our final thoughts on what we think of Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake? And Twinkie, we'll start with you.
It's met my expectations, and it makes the long and brutal wait feel like it's well worth it. Will this version be the one I play in future playthroughs of when I get the Dragon Quest III itch? It's too early to tell. But as someone who don't hate on me for this, but as someone who isn't a fan of the monster titles and was a little disappointed with the spin-offs since 11, this release has me ecstatic for the first time in a good while. And I'm excited to not only to see what the game brings later on through my playthrough, but as well as the 1 and 2 remakes.
Oh yeah, me too. Bururian, what are your final thoughts on this?
Final thoughts as it stands, and at this point I'm only like 15% of the way through the game, 20% tops. This will probably be the version that I replay going forward. Like, I have a soft spot in my heart for the Dragon Quest III Game Boy Color version, but this one's looking like the one to play, at least until they remake these games again, right?
Yeah, agreed. Drippy, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That last point, I would always kind of go back to the Game Boy Color version. That was always the one I have a soft spot for and everything. But this whole thing has just we've been waiting a while, and it has been well worth the wait. And I think just talking with you guys and stuff like that, and just talking to people about it, makes me appreciate it even more. I just remember being there the night that they announced it and stuff like that. I was just so excited. I remember there was kind of like rumors that if there was going to be a remake, it was going to be in the style of 11, because they had, I guess they had talked about like they had recreated Alihan like kind of in that engine. So I was like, okay, cool. It'll be like in the 11 engine. But no, I think with it being HD 2D, it fits so much better, especially with it being a 2D game all along. Immersive isn't a word that I don't think I've ever described a game, but this is just so immersive in the dungeon sounds, the ambient sounds and stuff like that. We kind of mentioned that earlier. I just really feel like I'm in the world. So again, I took Thursday and Friday off. I wasn't really able to play it yesterday, but I put some time in today. So it's been about 14 and a half hours in 3 days. And I'm just constantly thinking about playing it. I'm just always thinking about it, always excited to get back to it. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm so glad to see it got such a great remake. This will be the one going forward that I'll replay.
Nice. How many of us took Friday off to play this game?
I did.
I took Thursday and Friday off, so
Yeah, I took Thursday.
I think all of us took a day off to play this game.
Yep. I did.
I do that for every Dragon Quest release.
That should say
yeah,
something right there,
yep.
right? Like,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Now, Woodus, what are your final thoughts on the game?
I think it's a great version overall. Wish TNT was in there, like we've all said, but the NES version was probably the version I always went back to. I only played through the Game Boy Color versions a couple times, but this will probably be the one I play going forward, and I can't wait to see what they do with 1 and 2 next year.
Oh yeah, this has me very excited for what 1 and 2 is going to bring.
Hopefully they pick up on at least some of the stuff that we mentioned about, especially in the battle system, how we kind of all brought up, kind of wish we saw our characters, attacking. Maybe they'll do that for 1 and 2.
Maybe. What do you think, Aust?
There are a few things here and there that I would change. We've all mentioned them, but I think overall it's probably the best way to experience DQ3. I don't know if it'll be the one that I always play going forward, because I've only ever finished the mobile and the Switch version. So I would like to play the other versions too. And I'm a sucker for like old style graphics. But gosh, if I'd been playing every version as they came out, I would probably be doing this one a lot more in the future.
No, that makes sense. After some technical difficulties with Mattcraft, he is back to give us his final thoughts on the game as well.
Starting up the game and hearing the orchestrated intro was bittersweet. As most of you know, I love retro, and by retro I mean bips and bops, but I rolled with it. Looking at the beautiful 2D to HD visuals, obviously reminded of Octopath Traveler from the get-go. The sheer amount of detail, the grass flowing, candlelight, even moving shadows, and you could actually feel the air flowing from the game. And then you're walking through that initial forest clearing to the beautiful waterfall. And then, of course, it's time for 20 questions before the game begins. Starting it up and hearing beautiful voice acting, both American and Japanese, was a definite bonus. And going through the first barely 10th of a game has been both a nostalgic, I can't even think of a word to go with it. It's like being a kid again, only it's literally just as awesome. I think there's a well worth having to deal with a canceled pre-order from Walmart. Thank you, and good night.
For me, this has been a fantastic experience. Overall, I couldn't be happier with the game. The wait has been much longer than we all expected, but it's been very rewarding, especially considering they pulled the trigger on doing this for 1 and 2 that will be out next year. They also recently announced the Mark of Erdrick, also known as the Emblem of Roto manga, that will finally be published in English, starting with Volume 1 in September of 2025. It'll be interesting to see if later on in the game, if any references are made to the manga. One of the collector's edition items that I mentioned previously for the Japanese version have the sword and the shield from the manga, so I'm wondering if there'll be more to it than just a little piece of a collector edition's items, or will there be more? We'll see as we go through the game.
Well, I believe that's all for this episode of Slime Time. Thank you, everybody, for coming here to talk about the Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake. And a special thanks to all of our guests, Drippy, Woodus, Aust, and Twinkie. Guys, this wouldn't have been a podcast without you.
Thanks for having me. And
Thank you.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
We're a non-profit podcast. We won't class change your hard-earned gold when we can offer you quality content for free. But if you do have some extra gold that's just completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, bottomless bag, treasure chest, or in this game as well, the hanging wall sacks are back, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 25 years, stop by the Dragon's Den by clicking the link in the show notes. There are several ways to support the Den, including the affiliate links that don't cost you anything extra when making other Dragon Quest purchases, including the game we just talked about.
Now, I do believe that we even have a Slime Time t-shirt that was designed by our resident artist, the ever-delicious Dwayne. See the link in the show notes to buy yourself a shirt.
As part of the Slime Time Extended Universe, or STU, you can direct comments or questions for the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
And you can join us in tons of Dragon Quest discussion at the Dragon's Den forums or Discord and the Dragon Questers and Slime Time Facebook groups.
Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast.
This is the Dragon Quest Slime Time sliming off.
This is Gertrude for Slime Time, reminding you all that you must complete your adventure.